paganism is naturally arising, or what we call paganism. Now, I knew from a young age that Mary, the devotion to Mary, did not get, it wasn't taken from I just knew it was, and then I found there's a gap of non-use for a long time, and all the evidence points to this, that, and this is the anti-Marian view, by the way. I'm just going to express it. No, Mary wasn't brought from Isis or any other female goddess. What happened was, you have the rise of monotheism with Christ and everything, and there's no female to pray to in there. Even the Holy Spirit, even though in the Catholic rendering into English, a lot of times it's she, that's just the gender of the language. Pneuma is female in Greek. So you have, after centuries, a rise of Marian devotion. And Marian devotion doesn't really rise until the High Middle Ages. There's iconography of her, and there's the Christology of it. But in the East, it rises in the 600s, 700s, 800s. In the West, you don't see that rise. The far more west you go, the far later you see the rise of Marian devotion. And then it compounds after a certain point, and that's when you get all these things that then later are established in Western Catholicism, just before Vatican II and just after Vatican II, just before and just after Vatican I, and even just before Vatican II, actually, which I think the Immaculate Conception was doctrinalized and dogmatized in 1957. The Pope didn't become infallible until just after the American Civil War, the war between the states, the war of northern aggression, or the war to end slavery, whatever you want to call it. Various political leanings have different names for it. But there was no, oh, this is Isis. We're going to keep worshiping her, with the Serapion cult or whatever, Serapis, and bring that directly over. There was a dying off of paganism and just Christian monotheism, Trinitarianism, and then after centuries, there rose up I don't mean to imply that there's no evidence or whatever for veneration of the cult of the martyrs, or that the Theotokos wasn't highly talked about and seen in these high levels. The Ark of the Covenant, Mary as the Ark of the Covenant, can plainly be seen in Luke. But even in that, where do we see Mary? We don't see Mary in John or Mark. We see Mary in Luke and Matthew, which you can see a stagnation there of the earliest reports, independent reports, don't have much to say about her as in the way of flowery talk or attribution of miracles. It was just a concerned mother. Now, this is the anti-Marian view or non-Marian view. I don't want to suggest that I necessarily believe this. I'm just talking about there was no Mary as a goddess. If the Protestants like to accuse us of having her as a goddess, she rose as a goddess in her own, in the natural human urge for that female. And of course, if you have a pure and virgin female who is the mother of Christ, that's who's going to get elevated. As for the Mary Magdalene, the suspicions of Mary Magdalene being the ancient feminine, this is BS, because the Gnostic group saw her as androgynous at best and converted actually into a male before she died. there it is. And while we may view co-mediatrix as being attributing only things to Christ, to Mary, and we would never say co-mediatrix or co-redemptrix at all, we think that's blasphemy. The Protestants think that we have blasphemous speech about the Holy Lady Theotokos. So, peace to you.